latest episode of Lobot Podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Josh.
And it has been another week.
Oh, you got a new beat with that.
Yeah, I changed it up a little bit on the fly. I didn't plan on it, but I did it. So we took a short hiatus last week.
Yes.
But we are back at the Bachelor Pad. We are back at the Trap House. We are back at the...
Crackdown. So you were unfortunately sick.
Yes, I wasn't feeling one hundo.
Yeah. All right, hit me with new lingo.
This is old lingo.
Is that old lingo?
Old lingo, Spingo.
Shit.
You mean out here, you ain't in the game, son.
You are an old man.
I picked this up at the hospital.
With all the other 60-year-olds.
In the emergency room with the crackheads.
But I'm glad we can do this again.
Yeah, I don't have to record from the emergency room.
No, yeah, that'd be absolutely horrendous.
Not ideal.
You're feeling good now?
I'm feeling better.
You got some fresh tap water.
Some fresh water. Quick sip of the old water.
Straight from the tap. But have you watched much basketball?
I did watch a little bit, especially like middle half of the week to the end of the week.
Yep.
So I have two and a half topics I want to go over.
2.5? You told me it was 3 before the pod.
Yeah, but then you shut me down real quick on one of them.
What was it?
We'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
You're just going to be like, nah. You also hadn't heard the term groundswell before.
Yeah, but that's not a term that people use.
Groundswell. It's weird. It's real.
Groundswell.
Groundswell.
If in the comments, if I don't see one comment that says groundswell, you're lying to me.
No, we're going to Google it.
If you're going to prove him right, just comment groundswell.
It'll be in the title of this video.
Groundswell.
Is groundswell real or something? It's better than Jokic's bigger load.
That episode did well, though.
It did. We need more big loads for Jokic.
More sexual innuendos.
Okay, yeah. I'll squeeze one into this. This episode will be penetrated with sexual innuendos.
Oh, I like it. You're a natural at this.
I'm a natural.
Freaking pervert.
Have you watched much basketball this week?
Yeah, I watched quite a bit. I try to keep updated. I'm trying to keep my mind off shit. Mm-hmm. So basketball was a good escape from that.
Basketball. So, did you have any topics or should I jump right in?
No, jump into yours because there's a lot of other stuff we can go into.
So, one of mine's really recent. It was a milestone for a young player.
Yep.
Kevin Porter Jr.
Yep. Okay. Interesting. We're going to start with him.
Just scored 50 points.
Very polarizing player.
Yeah. For those who don't know much about KPJ, originally drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, great talent, right?
Yes.
You could tell his playing ability would not be an issue for him. Mm-hmm. He has some off-court dramas, and he seemed like mentally he's not in that professional space right now.
He's definitely not mature yet.
Yeah,
very,
he
very
hasn't
immature
matured
person.
to the level that teams need him to be.
Yep.
So Cleveland traded him off to the Houston Rockets, a team who's rebuilding.
For like the 55th pick or something. And
it was essentially they just want him gone.
Yep.
Because he was causing issues in the locker room, and that's the last thing you want on a young team.
Yeah.
So he just had a 50-point game, played really well.
I'll get the stats up for that, actually, because that was a
stats.
really, really good game. So it was 50 points, 4 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 block, 16 of 26 shooting, 9 of 15 from 3, and 9 of 11 from
Do those stats remind you of anyone that used to play for the Houston Rockets?
One person comes to mind, had a beard.
The guy who just shouted him out on Twitter.
Shout him out on Twitter. They seem to be into the same leisurely pastime.
Strip clubs.
Kevin Porter Jr. is just James Harden, confirmed.
Yeah, he said the game, he's modeled his games after James Harden and idolizes him.
Yeah.
And you can sort of tell.
You can tell both attitude and on the court.
On the court.
Yeah.
And good for him. Let's hopefully, clearly he has the talent to score at an elite level. Let's hope he can figure it out mentally.
Yeah, like the league's always a better place when there's more talent.
Yeah.
And KPJ is obviously a booming talent. I see a lot of people, because when he dropped 50, that was huge news. And a lot of fans were like, oh, Cleveland are stupid. They're idiots. They let him go for like the 55th pick or whatever it was for nothing. Chump change. But they easily forget why they had to get rid of him. They didn't want to get rid of him. They just didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's just too much drama.
He had an
with
outburst of a locker being moved.
Yep. And then they're also dismissing the fact that he broke protocol. He's been there for such a short amount of time.
It's recency bias.
Yeah.
That even draft stuff. It was how did Donovan Mitchell fall to 14th? How did Luka fall to 4th? Well, if you were around back then, if you were paying attention back then, a lot of these moves made sense.
Yes. Yep.
But it's just you look for recency bias. You look with hindsight, so and so and so. It's frustrating.
It's frustrating to have this discussion with a lot of people.
It was smart of Cleveland to, like, they had to either keep him and just deal with his immaturity.
Oh, you got to. It would, from my understanding, is you've now got loads of team issues.
Exactly. You risk more team issues, but you risk like him having great games,
especially when like Garland and Sexton are having phenomenal years this year.
Okoro looks great. Jared Allen.
Yeah.
So they made the choice to trust these 4 other guys and ship him off.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're not going to sustain this
50 and 10. He's not going to sustain. That's the other part I don't get. Like it's a phenomenal game for KPJ. It definitely deserves praise, especially with all the bullcrap which has happened surrounding him in the past year. But it is just one game. Yeah. We need to see him maintain a certain level of play because he has been inconsistent.
Exactly.
When he was with Cleveland, he would have some decent games and some great games. Nothing like this, of course. Yeah. But it wasn't anything that you're going to write a 5,000-word article about.
Exactly.
This obviously warrants that, but he needs to do more. What happens next game? I don't know when they play next, but if he scores 10 points of bad efficiency,
we're not going to hear about it.
Exactly. Like I holding off of the KPJ bandwagon, whatever you want to call it, but it is cool to see. Especially, I think the other reason why it's so polarizing is because it's KPJ.
Yeah.
If this was, TJ Warren again, we wouldn't really be talking about it too much. It's just KPJ. It being Houston as well with that stat line, it's just kind of the stars aligned for such a wacky story.
Exactly. It makes me think of another Porter Jr., who's a great scorer, Michael Porter Jr.
I wanted to touch on him as well.
We will get to him. But his talent, he dropped in the draft. He was looking to be like 1 or 2, but he dropped to 14th. And it was never his talent that was the worry. Same with Kevin Porter Jr. It's never the talent or the ability. It's the injuries or the immaturity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so KPJ had issues with the law before he was drafted, which is why he dropped. Yeah. He was seen as somewhat of a liability to some front offices, which is valid. MPJ was his body.
Yep, he had a back issue, which is not good at 18.
No, not at all. And it seems everyone in his family has had histories of their careers being cut short with those back injuries.
And people say, how did MPJ fall when he's having a great stretch, which we'll get into.
That's why.
But it's like, well, he had a back surgery and missed all of his college year.
I remember at that time, he had the same surgery that Steve Kerr had at like 50 or 60 years old.
Exactly. So people say now, how did he drop? How did he drop? What a steal. Well, you got to think back to how the perception was back then. Yep. There was no clue that he was going to be able to play this. And MPJ could just get injured at any point.
Yep.
His back, his durability in his back isn't going to be the same as other guys his age.
It's the same, a very similar situation. When we always talk about draft nights in hindsight, the Kevin Durant, Greg Oden one. Greg Oden was better than Kevin Durant.
Yes.
Greg Oden was a generational talent when he was scouted.
They were like on par.
Yeah.
Right? You come off College Player of the Year and a 5-star recruit. Yeah. They're going to be 1 and 2.
Either or. And people are like, as if Portland didn't draft KD. Like, you don't know how
highly rated Greg Oden was.
He was a phenomenal player.
Again, like he had some injury concerns, but then it just...
Worth the risk.
Yep. And then, unfortunately, the dice roll didn't go in their favor.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's always kind of frustrating, like I said, talking about these draft nights in hindsight, because people think, I would have done that. Like, no, there were these other things which you're not accounting for.
There's other factors
leading up to draft night. Yeah.
Exactly.
But no, KPJ, shout out to him. I hope he can figure it out, maturity wise. That's the only thing holding him back, really.
I mean, he's on the team with John Wall. It's not.
John Wall's a phenomenal leader, though.
Yes, but he's also throwing up gang signs.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a bit immature. That's all I'm saying.
John Wall's not the most mature player, but he is one of the best leaders in the NBA, and I'll die on that.
Also, John Wall is now the all-time leader for blocks by a guard.
Yes, I saw that, which was such a surprise.
Quick shout out, while still in his playing career, he's in his twilight years.
Has missed 2 years as well.
2 years. But still, that's a great achievement for a guy who has some injury concerns. It's just shout out to.
Very, very good. It's so hard for point guards to get blocks. I mean, and obviously they're the smallest players on the court generally. But yeah, that came out of surprise. He's always been a great defender,
Yeah,
John
he has
Wall.
been ever since his debut.
Yeah, one of
He's
the
always been
best, one of the best passing guards and one of the best defending guards.
Yeah.
Which was really, really cool to see. Yeah, I had no idea he was that close to it.
close,
It is kind of a niche stat. You know, it doesn't really mean
It's not all-time
too
blocks
much.
leader, but
Yeah.
it is like you can. It's a thing you can look back on and say, okay, these guys were good defenders.
Yeah.
At that position.
absolutely like getting blocks as a point guard is wild. Like in the same vein, it's was it TJ McConnell leads everyone in steals this season.
Yeah.
There's just so many of these small guys which are becoming great defenders, and we're seeing some of these bigger guys become better offensive players.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of switching, which is really cool to see. But
Versatility from the positions.
yeah, as frustrating as it is watching John Wall play, his efficiency is garbage. One of the worst in the league, but he's trying.
He's back on the court in his first year back from a big injury.
Yeah. Yeah. He's trying, and that's what Houston need right now, is they need someone that's going to try.
And they're rebuilding.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They're not like, oh, we need to go to the playoffs. They're clearly in a rebuilding phase, so they're not too fussed if they're losing. Guys are getting in rhythm. Guys are figuring it out slowly.
Yeah.
We mentioned MPJ before. You mentioned you want to talk about him.
Yeah, so I think out of the 50-something starts, let me get the stat up.
He's had, for those who haven't paying attention to Denver this month, he's having crazy numbers.
So he has started 54 times this season. He's averaging 19.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, off 54.8 field goal percentage, 43.2 3-point percentage, which is 66.7 true shooting percentage. That is wild.
Have you seen his numbers for this month?
I know it's even more.
His 3-point percentage this month is like 55%.
Yeah. I just think overall, that season is a
He's-
phenomenal season with efficiency.
He's
Because
so good.
you
at
watch
scoring.
MPJ play, it's still, I'm scoring this bucket. He's a bucket.
He's a bucket.
And it's wild because what I was concerned about with MPJ was tunnel vision's fine as long as you can hit it.
Yeah.
He wasn't hitting it.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's done a complete 180 and he's hitting everything. 66% true shooting percentage. A guy that's 6'10" plays the wing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
is
that's
crazy.
Durant stuff.
Yeah. It's helped by, if you look at amount assisted, like it's like 60 to 70% of his scores are assisted. That's because he's playing next to, most likely, the MVP of the season, one of the best passers in the league, Nikola Jokic. But it's still like he's gets his own rebounds. Like you mentioned, like nearly 8 rebounds per game.
Yep.
And it's not like they're not empty stats.
No.
He cuts in to get a rebound constantly.
He tries.
Yeah.
Which is
He's effort in
amazing
the chaos.
to see.
If there's chaos, he's out there putting in 110%.
he thrives in chaos, which is cool. Because I remember when we were watching him, because we were very aware of his back. We're concerned about his back. But whenever there's just a collision of people, he wants to be in that collision of people.
Yeah, he wants the ball.
And that stresses me out, but I love to see it.
Yeah.
You know, I love to see a 6'10" guy which isn't afraid to get the ball, go after the ball,
And he's
get that
not
bucket.
he's not a thick dude.
No, not really.
He's got a bit of a thinner frame.
Yep, for a guy that's 6'10", yeah.
His ability to cut's amazing. His shot's great. He can shoot over people.
He's really blessed to be on a team with Jokic and Campazzo.
Yeah.
Like two really
amazing
good
passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They will just find the open man. Like him and Aaron Gordon as well.
Yeah,
like,
Aaron Gordon's having a great
blessed.
a great period of his career right now since coming.
It helps that MPJ has found himself as an offensive player in the time of need.
Yeah.
Which is with Jamal Murray out, unfortunately.
Absolutely. He's stepped up and taken more shots and it's working out.
It's working out so well. You guys are still such a fun team to watch. I was so worried when Murray went down.
That was
This would strain the team out way too heavily because he was the second option.
We've been winning
was very clear.
a bunch.
Yeah, but MPJ's stepped up. Month of April, he's played phenomenally, and then all these other guys are playing really, really well. I love to see it.
I looked at there was a post on Reddit during the week. I don't know if you saw it. It was comparing MPJ and Shea.
I've not seen that, no.
You're not seeing it. And it said they both came in the same draft.
Yep.
At this point, who would you rather if you were rebuilding? Right? And unanimously it was Shea.
Yeah, I don't think
Shea gets assisted on 10% of his points.
Oh, wow.
He's going
Holy
to break
moly.
the record this season for drives to the rim for a guard.
Only 10% of his points.
It's like 10 to 20%. It's something.
That man is
It's really low.
buckets. That man's
Shai's averaging
buckets.
like 22 points per game and like 6 assists, and he's the ball handler.
I knew he was efficient. I didn't realize, because I haven't watched much OKC this year, admittedly.
They're on a 25. They're on like a 20-game list.
They've only won like 20 games this year or something.
Yeah.
But I knew he was super efficient and looking really, really good for his age. Didn't know he was that phenomenal as
It's all him.
a scorer.
It's all him and Lou Dort sometimes. But Lou Dort isn't passing him the ball. There's no other playmakers.
He's getting his own space.
He's getting his own space.
Getting to his spots. That's
And
really impressive.
that was the main thing to me, is like, he's like, MPJ is a great scorer, but he's being, because he's not the best shot creator just yet, he's been given these opportunities to get a shot up or a great cut, where Shai is creating his own shot.
Which is immensely more valuable.
More valuable.
Because do you want Chris Middleton, which relies on teammates a bit more? Do you want a James Harden?
Yeah.
Who will just get his shot 10 out of 10 times?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to want the James Harden.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to build too heavily around that.
It's like Rowan or like James Harden or like Rowan or Kobe. Where Rowan towards, I want to say, the mid to tail end of his career was a spot-up shooter, where Kobe was always a shot creator. James Harden's always a shot creator. KD's a shot creator. Chris Paul. Look at these like great names, and they're all shot creators. Because they have the ability to create their own shot.
Yep.
For Shai, it's because he's a 6'7" point guard.
Yep. But immensely quick, immensely athletic.
Immensely quick, very smart as well. Played under Chris Paul for a season.
Yep. Feels like you retained a lot of that knowledge.
Knowledge. And they're not coming out with wins, but they're in he's the tank commander.
It feels like they've got the pieces. It feels like I'm looking at Atlanta. It feels like I'm looking at Memphis. It feels like I'm looking at so many of these teams
with Lou Dort, Shai, and Poku.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We haven't touched on Poku.
Poku's such a weird player.
Well, let's just touch on Poku real quick. So Poku is a 7-foot European guy. He's like 19. And he's a great passer. He's a good shot creator. He's
athletic.
He's kind of athletic.
Yeah.
He's not the best defender, but he's thin, wiry. He's like a weird point guard, 7-footer. Doesn't have Jokic's like post-up game, but he's unique.
He's a weird, like, if you made a 7-footer in 2K but made their stats overall pretty good.
Yeah.
That's kind of him.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, 7-footer.
But also kind of like has a hard-on for highlight reels.
Yeah. Yeah. Poku's, he's a talent.
So wide. I don't know what he is yet.
He's a bit raw, like with his shot selection and some of his passes, but he's doing flashy passes like every night.
But it's cool, yeah. It's cool to see, and it brings life to a team which is so down to the dumps right now.
Yeah, they're in
only
like,
20
okay,
wins
we're
or
going to
something.
wait 3 years to be anything.
Yeah.
But like...
But anything could happen, man. Like, we saw New York, I remember last season of the pod, because we knew the team was going to be this, minus a couple things. But it was like, they might make the playoffs. Maybe. Even then, that was a little bit of a stretch. They're on the 4th seed right now.
Tibbs.
Pretty comfortably.
Tibbs and Julius.
Yeah, like it's wild. And a very same thing could happen to this OKC team.
It's true.
If Shai makes small tweaks in regards to his teammates and how he interacts with them on the court,
A good draft pick.
could be wild.
Yeah.
Another draft pick, another small piece.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. Because you look at Memphis, they're still in the playoff race.
Yeah, they're trying. Even though they're struggling this
Their
season.
team on paper compared to so many other teams really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it just works.
Yeah.
Atlanta right now works. So many of these teams just work, and it could happen. And that's what's exciting about it, seeing Shai have such a phenomenal, efficient season in terms of shot creation as well. That is just absolutely wild. And you see guys like Lou Dort. Lou Dort deserves recognition.
Yeah,
one of the best two-way players in the league.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not going to put him up there with Kawhi and PG, but his defense...
He's getting better.
His defense is phenomenal, and he's a better scorer this year.
Yeah, and you can see improvements throughout the year.
And he looks like such a lovable guy.
Yeah.
I love Lou Dort.
Speaking of teams that are trying to get in the playoffs, Portland Trailblazers.
I wanted to touch on them as well.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of talk about Portland recently, about the defense, about the coaching. Do you have any thoughts you want to start us off with?
So first off, in the month of April, they've lost 10 of 15 games.
Yeah.
Horrendous, considering the fact they're actually not doing too bad in terms of injuries.
Dame's struggling a little bit right now.
A little bit.
But, yeah.
It feels like, and I just want to riff a bit, but Dame and CJ are back together.
Yeah.
CJ's no longer injured. CJ's playing great. Dame's playing great.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as soon as they come back, they start losing.
Yeah.
And this has always been a discussion for the past 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Do we split them up or do we keep them together?
Yeah.
And I feel like after this horrendous run, it feels like Dame plays better without CJ. CJ plays better without Dame. When they're both playing good, it doesn't result in a win. That's just what I'm seeing.
I feel the same way.
Yep.
They're both not great defenders, and CJ's a bad defender.
CJ's a decent defender.
He's not.
He's a decent defender.
He's not.
I will not take that slander.
He's a bad defender.
He's decent.
He's not.
I'm not.
Stats show.
Continue.
Did you see his brother got into a Twitter argument like 2 months ago?
And he used the wrong stat, which
No, he was using the right stat, but he thought it was the other way around.
The other way
He
around,
thought, like,
yeah.
it was like golf.
Yep.
Where lower means better.
But the only reason I'm defending it is because previous years will show his defensive rating has been much better, and use the same argument to support Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles, the past 2 years, has been a horrendous player. And everyone has disagreed with that fact because they love Joe Ingles.
Bad defender. I think
No,
just still as an overall.
Overall, people have defended Joe Ingles the past 2 years when they shouldn't have. He's been an objectively bad player. CJ Cullman has not been the best player. Scoring-wise has been fine.
Scoring-wise has been fine. It's not an issue for CJ.
No. But it also doesn't help their defense.
They've got two guards. Neither of them are great defenders.
Not anymore, no.
Zach Collins cannot get on the floor.
Nah,
He's
too
injured constantly.
Too injury prone.
And I thought he had great potential, and he did. But he's been too injury prone. Nurkic has been kind of injury prone, but you want Nurkic out there. Yep. They don't have any great defenders right now. No. Melo's never been a great defender.
No.
And his old age has gotten worse. Covington's good, but he's not that.
He's not going to change a team's anchor on defense.
So, and none of their bench players. They lost Gary Trent Jr. They gave him up for Norman Powell.
But even then,
Norman Powell's been all right. He hasn't been amazing.
He's been all right. Yeah, Gary Trent Jr.'s made more of an impact in Toronto.
Exactly.
I actually really liked Gary Trent.
And I think it's about time to move off Terry Stotts.
Yes. Yep,
nearly been a decade.
That's something I'm hearing. Almost a decade. I don't think it helps the fact that they refuse to get a team of defenders. Every time they get a defensive wing, which is perfect, they let him go very soon.
I think
that doesn't make any sense to me.
That has to be the front office not wanting to spend money and keep him.
I think it's a situation where Terry Stotts is a good coach. He's not a great coach. Yeah. I'm never going to, go to war for Terry Stotts. I think he's a good coach, especially when we consider the success they've had in the regular season time and time again.
They did make it to the conference finals.
Having multiple 50-win seasons.
Yeah.
With such injury-riddled bullshit seasons is impressive. And people forget about that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you said,
they've been 50 wins for a while.
It's always recency bias.
Yeah.
But maybe it is time to move off of Terry Stotts. It's a mediocre thing. Mm-hmm. Their peak will be around 50 wins, and they'll get bounced in the first or second round. There was that one really close run where they got to the conference finals, but I don't see them doing that again.
No.
And it doesn't help where CJ's defense has declined. Mm-hmm. He was their best defender at one point. He would guard the best players in the opposing team and and alleviate those duties off of Damian Lillard. That was the catch. But if he's not defending, Damian Lillard's not defending.
Yeah.
Covington's not the best defender, especially at this age.
He used to be pretty good, and I think he's a really good off-ball defender.
Yeah.
There's been times where his lateral won't allow him to stay on the ball handler. Yeah. So that's typically where he's had some big guys to clog the paint.
I see Covington better in a Miami zone scheme.
Yeah.
Where he can play zone or just play a bit more off-ball as a wing.
Yeah. He's not the only defender on the team, you know what I mean? He's not their savior.
Yeah. I don't see it working. The pieces that they keep on this team don't work.
Yeah.
For the long run. They've got immense firepower offensively, but you look at the great teams in history that have immense firepower offensively, they've also had great defense.
Teams with better firepower that didn't make it.
Yep. This isn't enough. And I think Damian Lillard is untouchable, in my opinion.
You can't give him up.
Way too good.
You can fit him into any scheme in any team.
Yep.
So even if you made 10 trades, you could still put Dame in and do great.
Yep. We look at teams like Golden State. The reason why Steph can be Steph is because Clay's one of the best defenders in the league at his prime.
Draymond's amazing passer, great defender.
Yes.
Great mind.
So whilst CJ and Clay can be a little bit similar in terms of scoring and shooting, one plays immense defense.
Yeah.
One is average at best.
Yeah.
We look at teams, other teams which, let's look at the Lakers. LeBron's, point guard at heart, and is flourished with AD, a big man. They've never really had that. Nurk has been out for so long. Zach Collins has never been on the court, and they've never had any other big men really besides that. But the reason why it doesn't work, because you've got Damian Lillard and Damian Lillard 2.0. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
They need to run, if you're going to want a second scoring option, get someone which can defend really, really well. Get another big man which is actually going to stay on the court. So like a Jonas Valanciunas who's just so consistent. And I know Nurkic changes this team drastically.
It does.
When he's on the court and playing well, and everyone says it's like watching a completely different team.
Very different team.
But he needs to stay on the court. It always feels like when they need Nurkic the most, he's not there. And that's unfortunate.
I never know when going into a Portland game if Nurk's going to be playing or not.
Exactly.
And that's a worry.
Exactly.
I know Zach Collins isn't going to be playing.
Yeah. It's just like stats show with Golden State, and this is just something which has popped in my mind now. Wiseman is a negative on that team.
Yeah.
They have, when he's on the team, they lose. When he's not on the team, they win. And that's a big thing because that means they play more small ball. That's what Draymond flourishes in, and it works.
Yeah.
Okay, and you got to do whatever works with that team to get to the playoffs. That means that Wiseman potentially could ship.
Yeah.
And Portland need another freaking big man. They need someone young. They need someone, or, an established veteran, but they need someone which is actually going to be able to impact defensively and offensively. And I feel like Wiseman could be worth shipping off something. I don't know, because Wiseman's stock has dropped.
Yeah. What would you give up, though?
I don't know.
Wiseman's never...
I mean, CJ should be on the trade block at this point.
Yeah.
And that's
it's that duo doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's no knock on CJ. CJ's a great player.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't work, unfortunately. In our opinion.
That team doesn't hide having CJ and Dame, and they have weaknesses, and the rest of that roster doesn't hide those weaknesses.
No, not at all.
It's essentially just the same thing in other positions.
Yeah. Because Jordan Poole cannot guard, Bowman cannot guard, any of these other guys can't guard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help with Terry Stotts not being a great defensive coach.
Yeah.
It's rough. I feel so weird about Portland because a few weeks ago we spoke about Portland. Damian Lillard was like the height of his career.
Yeah.
Portland as a team was shooting for the stars. They were so much higher. And then this month they win 5, lose 10.
Yeah.
That's horrendous. And they're now, I think, sitting at 33. I'll check it later.
But this feels like a Portland thing. This happens.
This happens, and the duo doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. That's the only thing I can come to, and maybe Stotts. Maybe Stotts. It's time to move off Stotts.
Yeah.
We've seen.
I feel like a lot of time we feel like we have good ideas that could help it. This one, I feel like we're just a bit like, I guess, get rid of CJ and get something. Maybe get rid of Stotts
because it's worked and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Right. They've had success.
Yeah. But you're not going to get any further than where you're at.
And I think it's time to take that risk. We've seen teams be willing to take big risks very early on because they're confident that what they've got as a backup is going to work better. Yeah. And that's worked out.
Yeah.
Look at Atlanta, for example. We didn't agree firing Lloyd Pierce was the right move. We didn't. And that was.
It worked out, yeah.
They took a risk.
Yeah.
And maybe they need to do that, Hiring Thibs, Thibs get a lot of hate.
Yeah.
Not a lot of
Not from
people
us.
like Thibs. No, we love Thibs.
Not from us.
But he came in under all that criticism. They're the 4th seed. New York Knicks are the 4th seed. You just got to take a risk every now and then.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what Portland need to do. I don't have the answer. I don't know what coach you would replace him with because he's a good coach.
Yeah, he is.
If he gets let go, some other team's going to pick him up. If Billy Donovan can get picked up elsewhere, so can Stotts.
It's true.
But yeah, they're a weird anomaly right now because they've got phenomenal players.
Are you happy being a 50-win team that doesn't have great playout six that will struggle in the playoffs?
It's so weird.
Or you want to try and shoot for the stars where you've got Dame?
It's so weird because if you're a 50-win team, generally you're a contender, in my opinion. I'm not about that Phil Jackson, like 40 before 20.
Yeah.
I don't care too much for that. It's too specific. But if you're 50 wins, especially in the West, you're a damn good team.
Yeah.
But it never felt like they were a phenomenal team. It just it always felt like they were batting above their average.
Yeah.
You know, they look like a 40 to 45 win
They
team,
were
and they'd
also a
get
different
53
team
wins.
every season
Yeah.
with their role players, with their bench.
That's what I mean. Like they always like, we'll get this will help, and then they'll get rid of him, and then the
Like,
next year they'll get someone else, and then
When
they'll
was
get rid of
Alfred
him.
Camino on there? 3 years ago?
Yeah, around 3 years ago, I think.
This is Cantor's second time on this team.
Yeah.
In 2 years.
There's no
3 years.
the only consistency they have is Nurk, CJ, Dame. I'm gonna be honest, and it just would Nurk out so frequently. Even CJ's been out quite a bit, and then when Dame's had a bit of issues every now and then. Same with Steph. You know, it's very similar. But they need some more consistency and better pieces on that. I'd love to properly look at the situation.
But that's a lot of time and
Yeah, I mean, I can't do it now because you got to put me in front of a computer and
we'd have to sit
start
down
looking
for
at
a long
stuff.
time. Okay, we won't touch on them too much more. Did you have any other topics you want to go into?
Yeah. What do we at? Well, we got some
around
time.
half
Thank
now.
you. I thought you were gonna.
I've got one mini topic, but I might save that my half topic, but I'll save that for a little bit.
There's a few other things which are pretty mini. First one is I do have to shout out Minnesota.
Yes, they've had some recent success recently.
Longest winning streak in the league right now.
Is it really?
Yep.
Oh, good on them.
Wild.
Good on them.
Wild. And it's because D'Lo's come back.
Yeah, he's playing well. Well, it's because D'Lo and Kat actually get to play together now.
Yeah.
In their 2 seasons together, they've played like 20 games.
Yeah, it's very minimal.
And Anthony Edwards as well. Having the 3 of those, it's like less than
Anthony
10.
Edwards is so good. Anthony Edwards and KPJ are so similar in terms of immaturity, but one's an asshole, one's not an asshole.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards is just a bit of a troll.
He feels like a teenager.
He's a teenager, means no harm,
Yeah.
just likes talking shit. KPJ means a bit of harm.
Means you a bit of harm.
It feels like, you know what Anthony Edwards is?
What?
He's the class clown, but if he sees the lonely kid getting bullied, he sticks up for the lonely kid.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
Whereas KPJ's the asshole bullying the lonely kid.
Which is the title for this episode? KPJ is an asshole bully, or Anthony Edwards sticks up for the lonely kid? I like Anthony Edwards sticks up for the lonely kid.
I like that. Yeah, if I can make it short, short and sweet. But I mean, to me, that's perfect.
It does. Yeah.
If I was to put them in a teen rom-com, I'm choosing those two. But so Minnesota, they're really, really good. Cat's playing like Cat. I don't get the hype, but that's fine.
D'Lo's playing well.
D'Lo's playing very well.
Playing well.
I think that's just 3 of them.
Yeah, that's all you need for that team.
Playing well. Because usually when they've got players playing well, it's only 1 or 2.
Yeah.
They really need all 3 firing on all cylinders.
And when they do, they're not bad.
Not a bad
They're
team.
able to
No.
get wins.
They're able to get 20 wins throughout the season.
No, when all 3 are playing well, they're actually not awful. But it's just, when can you actually get them on the court together?
Yeah.
That's been their issue.
D'Angelo's history is pretty good with injuries, so it should be fine. Cat's, fine. Most of it was the COVID thing.
Yeah, most of it was COVID. Yeah.
Which he's still trying to, work on. Who was it? Was some player came out recently that got COVID? It might have been Andrew Wiggins. Said that they now have to use an inhaler to open up their lungs consistently. Like, that's something that people don't touch on. A lot of these players coming back from contracting COVID, they have to have some of the best health in the world to play
in
so
the
consistent,
league.
especially this year, where it's just back to back to back.
Where it's 6 games a week.
And they've got to deal with, post-COVID symptoms.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's fucked.
So I don't, what Cat's doing is impressive.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to do it, and everything has gone through emotionally as well.
It's been a long year for him.
Very, very long and tough year for him, but Anthony Edwards has shown he can hold the fort down. He can get some wins himself, which is really cool to see. Hopefully, with D'Lo back, Anthony Edwards playing great, and Cat playing as Cat does, hopefully Rubio can get on board a bit, because he has slandered this team to hell, which I love.
Yeah.
Because you got to show this team tough love.
They're playing better now, so I'm sure he's, a bit happier about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like I said, the longest winning streak in the league, which is never saw that happening.
Yeah, they swept the Jazz this season.
Such 3-0.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
They just got their number.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, that happens.
There's just
genuinely, that just happens in every sport.
Yep.
If a team just has your number, it happens.
They're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
It's fun. But yeah, they're gonna be one to keep the eye on. I don't like Minnesota, but I love it when every team is competitive.
Yeah.
I want to see every team gun for every team.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things, love or hate Houston in the James Harden era, to me, they are the poster boys for gunning for every team.
Harden playing 40 minutes every night.
When KD was with Golden State, that was just like, Jesus Christ, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
They're just going to win everything. Houston were like, nah though.
Nah though.
That's Houston. Houston, were not fun to watch in my opinion, but man, I appreciated them.
Boy, I loved it.
I loved their energy, their personality.
Harden's playing 40 minutes, 82 games a year. Fuck
Love
you.
that shit. Love that shit.
Yeah.
That's probably the period I'll remember Harden for. It's not going to be OKC, obviously. It's not going to be what he's doing post Houston because it feels a bit
40
cheap.
minutes every night.
40 minutes.
Splashing.
Harden soul on the court. You know, I love or hate the way he played. I just love the fact that they were gunning for everything every single year. Yeah. And the front office wasn't afraid to make moves.
Yeah.
You know, gunning for an aging Chris Paul. You know, this wasn't... It's a similar situation to Dame and CJ. Chris Paul doesn't work with James Harden.
No.
It didn't work. But they tried, you know.
That wasn't how Chris Paul normally plays basketball.
No.
They got Chris Paul because he can do anything on the basketball court, but that's not Chris Paul's ideal play style.
You get Chris Paul so Chris Paul can play like Chris Paul. You don't get Chris Paul to play like James Harden.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It almost worked, but it shouldn't have.
Yeah,
You know
like
what I
it
mean?
wasn't bad. Like obviously if you get Chris Paul, it's not going to be a bad team.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be
You're
the best
one game
fit.
away.
Yeah. But God, they were just... I don't know how I got onto that.
Speaking of Chris Paul.
Yep.
So there's been some groundswell recently about him getting the MVP.
I'm not naming the title groundswell no matter
No,
how many
it's
times.
Anthony Edwards picks on the bully or something.
No, he saves the bully.
Saves the bully? Anthony Edwards saves
No, sorry,
the
no.
bully?
He doesn't pick on the bully. He saves the lonely kid. Jesus, we've really got to sit down and hash this out more.
It's been groundswell that Chris Paul... I used to give you the titles for every episode the next day, but things have changed.
But I had to change because I can't do... For those that don't know, if you do notice a difference in titles, the way YouTube works is very different from the way Anchor works. And YouTube can catch audiences a lot easier than Anchor because Anchor... If you're listening, CEO of Anchor, your system sucks.
You took out our tags.
Why take out the tags? So I had to make it a bit more straightforward and eye-catching just to get things in.
Like clickbait.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm refusing to do clickbait thumbnails.
Oh, there's dust going.
I can't, man.
Not
I
yet.
can't.
Not yet.
Whenever I see fucking box openings on YouTube and there's some dickhead with his face like... And there's the box on the other half, that shit makes me want to kill myself.
Do, right? Because that reminds me of the Scream. You know the painting The Scream?
Yep.
We should recreate classic art paintings, but us. We'll do like American Gothic, The Scream. That'll catch audiences.
Oh, I thought you meant just as a hobby.
No.
I thought you were
for the
stupid.
thumbnails. For the thumbnails. We'll do American Gothic. I'll stand there with a pitchfork and you'll be the wife, just standing there looking depressed.
That'd be so confusing.
Yeah, what if you
seeing
didn't listen
American Gothic renditions of famous art when we talk about Karl Anthony Towns for 10 minutes while you're wearing a
Karl
snapback.
Anthony Towns and D-Lo as the American Gothic painting will have KPJ as the Scream. It'll be great. Groundswell, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Chris Paul is swelling in the ground.
What does that mean? You're just saying words at this point.
Some people are saying he should be MVP.
No.
For what he's done for the Suns this year.
Fantastic what he's done with the Suns this year. But I'm going to go, or do you have more to say?
Go. I'm hyping you up.
They went 8-0.
8-0.
In the bubble. They were looking really, really good. The team was poised to have success this year. This team was not going to be a bad team this year.
Poised.
They were going to make the playoffs this year, most likely with or without Chris Paul. Rubio was a great fit.
Rubio.
I love you as a hype man. I need it more often. When I got a lady over, just stand in the corner.
Lady.
Be like, get it.
I'm with you. There is one MVP this season. He is a big, tall, pasty Serbian. No Paul, all tall. Nikola Jokic is the MVP. I don't want to hear about Steph.
It's not even close.
He's done amazingly these past couple months, but he has
close.
been injured. He can't be. Jokic has played every fucking game.
Yep. I love that argument. He can't be.
He can't be.
When
He can't be.
Can Steph Curry be MVP?
He can't be.
I love it.
He can't be.
That's the argument.
He's missed games. He hasn't played
I
as many games as Jokic.
I don't think you need to play as many games, but I do think the level of success has to show.
Level of success.
What Steph Curry is doing this year is historical, and I do want to touch on Steph Curry.
We do it
But
every
they're
week.
like one game above 500. Denver are a phenomenal team this year.
Fourth.
You guys are killing it.
And even without the second option, he's making other players step up and become that second option.
He's a great leader, great offensive load. Is
Like
just
last week, 2 weeks ago, Big Load.
Big Load. That's his new nickname.
Big Load.
Big Load.
Not Big Honey.
Nah, Big Load. Big Honey doesn't make sense to me. But it's phenomenal what he's doing. Now, Chris Paul has elevated the Suns. They're the second seed, right? And potentially could take the first, I think today.
First seed.
Phenomenal. But they were going to be great either way.
Yeah.
Honestly, Devin Booker is the best player on that
They're
team.
probably going to make 8.
Yeah, I would say 8 to 6, any of them. But they were going to make the playoffs. But Chris Paul, deserves to be in the top 5 discussion, but it's not close to Nikola Jokic. And it's the same thing with Steph. Whilst he's having a phenomenal season, most points in the league, the best efficiency in the league, that's stupid. No player should have that much power.
Not those two.
But it's the fact that the team's struggling. And it's not his fault, but they're struggling. So I can't put him up there with that. It's so far ahead because Embiid has missed so much time again, unfortunately. Jokic is out on the pier by himself with his hands on his hips thinking about the award because everyone else is back at the beach.
I need that thumbnail.
You know that stock image of the African American dude standing butt naked with his hands on his hips and his butt's towards the camera? And I think it's like looking at the sunset or something. I've seen it so many times. That to me is what I'm envisioning Jokic staring off into the sunset.
Oh no, you don't do.
I can replace you with a naked black man if you want.
For the whole episode. But yeah, Jokic is going to be the MVP.
Yes. Yep. I will fight anyone that says otherwise.
That was
Straight
just
up.
my little half topic. It wasn't going to be a big topic, but there was some swelling in the ground. Do you have any little topics to go over?
Yeah, can we stop the swelling? The swell talk. I don't understand it still. Next episode, just a bit of homework. Can you actually look at the origin for that?
Groundswell?
I want to know the origin for that. That'd be real interesting.
I look at my phone, but I can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't have my phone on me like you, big smart boy.
Big smart boy. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick things to go over. Steph Curry holds the record for most threes in a season, not a season, which he does, but he broke a new record, 96 threes in the month of April.
That's wild.
96 threes in
than
one
a lot
month.
of teams did.
Absolutely crazy. Something that makes me very, very sad. So we touched on this, I think, a couple weeks ago. I briefly mentioned it. Isaiah Thomas, beloved Boston player.
Yeah.
Past player. He had a 10-day contract with New Orleans. On the 10th day of his contract, he was seen, the arena was empty. It was him and his ball boy, and he was just jacking up shots. No one to be seen except him and his ball boy. That looked so depressing, knowing that he didn't have a good 10-day contract, and that he was going to be cut, which he was. That was really depressing. And now he's on Twitter. Let me quote it. I'm going to get it up.
Yeah, I saw this the other day. I'm like, Josh is probably going to bring this up.
I have to. I love Isaiah Thomas. I have his Boston jersey. He's one of my favorite Boston players, despite it being such a short time. But I'll quote. This was his tweet. All it takes is one team. Give me a real chance to be a part of something, and I'll show you the impact I'll have on a team, whether I play or not. I'm ready to go. Racing flag.
I did see the racing flag. So, I have thoughts.
Hit me with the thoughts.
His ego is too big to play in the G League or China or Europe.
Okay.
Because he could play there.
He could.
His defense isn't enough anymore. He's had injuries. He's getting a bit older. He's a liability defensively on the court.
Of course, yeah.
Right? But he could still have a good career in Europe. But his ego won't let him.
Yes. History shows his ego won't let it because he hasn't played in the G League. Why has he not played in the G League? Jeremy Lin's playing in the fucking G League. That's Jeremy Lin.
Yeah.
He was bigger than Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
Like, I do think there's a bit of an ego. He did say in his tweet, I'll show you the impact I'll have on our team whether I play or not. So it seems he really just wants to get some money, which is fine.
He could go to Europe and really show up. And then
He could
have teams that gives them more tape to look at as well.
People are like, why doesn't he just play in China? They don't speak English in China. He's got a family.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that easy. So China's kind of ruled out because he's such a family man, I would assume. Europe, potentially, but I think he really just wants to stay in the States. I think like Melo, it's hit him hard.
Yeah.
He has to adjust. You're not Isaiah Thomas of Boston, which can average 30 points a game.
Yeah.
You're not that. And, the fact he says whether I play or not, granted it may just be, tongue-in-cheek. He can just say it because for the sake of saying it to try and get a contract. But I do think he means it at this point. After seeing him have that really sad 10-day contract, and he's been trying again and again to have these guaranteed contracts, and it's not working. I can see him actually, I want to say maturing in a way, because that's part of maturing, is understanding that you don't have to be the focal point on every team you play for. I can see him doing that. I just don't see any team taking him on. Because what is he going to do? He doesn't have the level of postseason success to really be a phenomenal vet. He's such a niche player in terms of his skill set, where there's only so much he can teach certain players, especially when the league's kind of getting bigger yet smaller.
Yeah.
Like the small guys are much bigger. The big guys, you're not going to see 7'4" guys a lot anymore, and big post guys. So his skill set's going to be a bit different. He's not a good facilitator. He's always just been a scorer.
He's just a scorer.
You're not really going to put him on because he's such a liability on defense, like you said. I think his time in the league's done.
Yeah.
I can see maybe one more 10-day contract, and that's a stretch,
if
that, in my opinion. I agree with you. I think Europe would be the place to go for Isaiah Thomas.
If he wants the best level of play, he goes to Europe. If he wants to stay in the States, he should go to the G League.
Yep. I agree with you. I don't know why he hasn't gone to the G League already if he's that confident, because, and like you said, it's ego.
Some people say ego. Some people say maybe G League teams don't want him because if they have a roster spot, they'd rather give it to a young, promising guy.
Yeah, that could be it as well.
But at the same time, like you could, that's a boost for your G League team to get more fans in.
Absolutely, because that's a business in its own.
It's a business, so I'd take. Look, I think it's an ego thing. He doesn't want to go to the G League.
I think so as well. But I see Jeremy Lin, and it hurts me a bit as well with what Jeremy Lin's going through. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when he signed that decent contract with Brooklyn, and that first season went down with a big injury?
Yeah,
and he was holding his leg, slamming the floor, just tears in his eyes because he knew that
was it.
That's it, and he's struggled ever since. Yeah, and that's just really sad to see. That was just a weird tweet because I've never seen a player which has had such high highs begging to be on a team.
Yeah, it's low lows.
Any contract. And that really sucks. From bring out the Brinks trucks to give me one chance.
One more
racing
chance.
flag.
Yeah, racing
ready
flag.
to go. Ka-chow.
I think that was ka-chow. Lightning was sad. I think we'll end it on Isaiah Thomas.
Let's do it. Let's end it on McSad.
McSad. Lightning McSad.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've stayed with us this long, thank you very, very much. It's a favorite part of our weeks every week. We are on every distribution platform possible. If you're watching this on YouTube, we are on Spotify, Apple Pod, Google Pod, Anchor, Breaker, Last.fm. We're everywhere.
OnlyFans.
Groove Shark, OnlyFans, Pixiv, Patreon, Kickstarter, Start Kicker. That's where you start kicking people.
Yeah, if they start saying groundswell too often.
I'm going to get kicked. If you're watching this on anything else, we're on YouTube with the Lowbot Podcast. The Facebook and Instagram is the Lowbot Podcast. Feel free to send us a message. Thank you very much. Tell your friends about us. We love this. Like, rate, subscribe. Everything that would help us out. Thank you very much. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.